Welcome to Journey On. I'm DJ Burr, the host and executive producer. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, behavioral addiction specialist, and best-selling author of I Just Wanted Love, Recovery of a Codependent Sex and Love Addict, available on Amazon, Audible, and iTunes. This podcast is for male survivors of sexual abuse and assault who want to experience a life worth living beyond a tragic past. I'm a survivor just like you, and I know the complexity of healing from trauma. I also know the joy that comes from the healing process. Hear our stories and share your own. You are not alone. You too can breathe deep and journey on. I encourage you to visit the Journey On website, www.journeynonpod.com. There you will find a link to sign up for my Recovery Journey newsletter, learn about my weekend recovery events for male survivors, and my online recovery coaching services for male survivors. If you have questions, concerns, or comments, or would like to be on the show, email me at journeynonpodcast@gmail.com. Journey On is on social media. Tweet us at JourneyOnPod. Find us on Instagram and Facebook at Journey On Podcast. Welcome to the finale of Journey On. I am so grateful that you guys have given me the opportunity to bring you season 1 of Journey On, Men Healing from Sexual Abuse and Assault. This was a dream of mine last year, and I'm so grateful that I have people in my support system who said, you can do this. And so that's what I did. I put my mind to it, and I got some support from the community, and I put it together. And so here we are at the season finale of season 1, episode 10, and I'm very grateful for all of the listeners out there and all of the listeners to come. Journey On is going to be out there on the internet for forever, and I think that people will come along throughout the years to find our stories and heal from their experiences. So I'm grateful to bring this last episode to you. Journey On will be back for season 2. I'm going to take a break, and I have another podcast out there called Making an Addict. And so I recommend that you follow me there as well. So sit back and relax and listen to season 1 finale of Journey On, featuring my interview with Officer Mike Stephen. And Mike's an ally for us survivors. And I think what he's doing will help heal the world. So take a listen. Welcome to another edition of Journey On. Today I'm speaking with Mike Stephen. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hi, good afternoon from the UK.
Wow, you're my first international guest. Thank you for being on.
No problem at all.
Yeah, can you tell our audience who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Mike. I'm a police officer with Avon and Somerset Constabulary here in the UK. My day job is a patrol officer, so responding to calls. But I also have a second work stream, which is trying to improve services overall, both within the police and via our partner agencies, trying to improve services for male victims of rape, sexual assault, domestic abuse and violence.
Wow, that's huge. I mean, you don't hear many police agencies working to address this issue. At least I don't, not here in the United States. And it's a huge issue. And I'm a survivor, and I appreciate anyone who's willing to do some work to help folks like myself. So thank you for doing that. How long have you been doing that work?
So I started this back in just the tail end of 2014, and that was really as a result of the Ministry of Justice, again in the UK here, put forward £500,000 to agencies who specifically provided services to male victims. And really, I kind of saw that as a bit of a hook for me to kind of progress some work. Because in the area that I police, which is the Avon and Somerset Constabulary area, predominantly the major city there being Bristol, at that time we had one agency who was awarded some of that funding, although we did have other agencies providing services to male victims. But typically in the UK, male victim services typically come second to female. And if you were a male victim, try going online, trying to find agencies that could help you, you would be struggling. As a result of some of the work that we've done in conjunction with our partner agencies, for instance, now if you were to go onto some of those websites, male victims are now on that home screen. So if you were a male and looking for that help, if you get to that website, you will instantly see something that's a reference to men, as opposed to having to perhaps previously scroll down and look in the small print.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty amazing change that has occurred there. Um, what do
Absolutely.
what do you think helped promote this change? Was there an increase in the number of victims who were reporting, or did something else happen?
No, I think largely, I think it was just a case of, and this sounds like I'm kind of blowing my own trumpet a little bit, but it's kind of, I think it just needed somebody to put the topic on the table, um, B, kind of educate perhaps some of our partner agencies a little bit, but also work with them and likewise them work with us in order to bring about change.
Hmm. Have you, in your experience, come in contact with many male victims?
Yes, through again through this work, obviously I pay particular attention to any report of particularly rape or sexual assault against a male, and certainly over the last 2 years, we've, as a constabulary, have had some fairly high-profile instances which have, um, well, two out of the three have resulted in convictions, i.e., the offender going to prison, and I think the feedback that we had from those three male victims was really, really encouraging, in so much as the experience that they had of both the police and the criminal justice system. Um, I think there is still some work to do, particularly, well, with men overall, but I think just as much with LGBT, because there is still a perception that rape, sexual assault, domestic violence, and abuse doesn't happen to men, or if it does, it's in such minuscule figures that we don't have statistics, etc., to back that up, which then obviously goes on to cause problems, perhaps, if our external partners are looking to provide a service and I seek funding that then becomes a problem because we don't have the statistics to back up that sort of belief that there's a need for the service.
Right. And, you know, the statistic that I use and that I hear most often is that 1 in 6 men have been victims of sexual assault or sexual abuse. Would you say that that number is pretty, does that align with the folks there in the UK? Do you think that's similar?
Well, I think certainly going back 2 years when the Ministry of Justice sort of put out their kind of funding, etc., and their campaign around it, they were working on the figure of 1 in 10. However, I personally believe if you look at the, say, other countries, like the US, for instance, and Australia, they're using figures like 1 in 6, 1 in 4 for women, things like that. Which I would be more saying it's taking an average of those. So maybe it's like 1 in 7, 1 in 8, but
Right.
I think it's more than 1 in 10.
Yeah, absolutely. It has to be. And it's staggering for me that even, for women it's 1 in 4, but even men 1 in 6.
Yeah.
My hope is that we can continue to have these conversations and create more change to decrease those numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of my key beliefs. That is, when I started this work, I was very, very adamant that I didn't want it to be a flash in the pan campaign. It had to be more than just posters because typically men don't read messages within, posters. And likewise, if they are looking online, um, as men, we typically like, is pretty much along the lines of shopping. We like to go, get what we want, and go. Um, Whereas women are a lot more sort of, they're quite happy to like look around, shop around. And it's the same online. So we have to make sure that the information is there, is visible, and accessible.
Good. I'm glad that you said that because I found you on Twitter because you were doing some great advocacy work on Twitter. And I was like, I got to reach out to this guy. So, can you tell our audience exactly some of the things that you've been doing?
Yep. So probably when I'm guessing the story that you picked up on, or the Twitter campaign I was doing at the time, was specifically driven towards gay men, and that was insofar as perhaps images that we as a policing constabulary put out were something that I've been trying to push for the last 2 years. And if I just describe to the audience basically what it is, I mean, we've got those two posters. One is the naked torso of a man,
Mm-hmm.
and the other one is the bottom half of a male figure, but wearing black shorts. Now, those were predominantly directed at our LGBT venues in our policing area. And that is because they were as stark as that, simply because if you are a gay man in a gay venue, images like that, as crude as it seems, they're going to catch your eye. And my hope is that people would read the message that was on there, which was basically saying that, rape and sexual assault can happen to men as well. And, with a message they're trying to encourage people to report it. And likewise on Twitter, the key messages that I'm always trying to push on there is we've got two hashtags, which are listen, believe, respect. And that is that as a policing constabulary, we will listen to you as the victim. We will believe your account, and we will respect you as an individual. So typically, and I'll use perhaps gay men or men who have sex with men, again, as an example, that typically, if something like that was to occur, it would perhaps occur in anonymous sex environments where typically a victim would think, well, I've willingly gone to that venue or I've taken part in that event, therefore it is my fault. The message I'm trying to push is that we're not actually interested whether you went to a chemsex party or whether you went to a cruising location and subsequently you were raped. The main part of what we're trying to push is that that event happened without your consent, and therefore that is rape.
Exactly. Yeah. Powerful, powerful messaging there. And have you gotten feedback on the campaign?
Yeah, I mean, the messages I get from sort of people on Twitter, victims, um, is always really encouraging and kind of pushes me on to do more. I think people, like you've said, have just people just saying, it's really refreshing to see somebody doing this, particularly from a policing background, because again, in the UK, we are the only constabulary who is doing more than a poster campaign. Most of our sort of other constabularies in the UK obviously all do kind of key messages and things like that. But like I said earlier in this interview, is for me, it's about doing more than that and making sure that you are reaching out to the communities that you are trying to encourage to report to the police. But for me, again, it is more than just trying to get the victim to report to us. I would love it if I could say that over the last 2.5 years, there has been an increase in men coming forward. Unfortunately, there hasn't. And I'm referring to my constabulary now. But our partner agencies in Bristol, particularly our sexual assault referral centre, they have seen a significant increase in men coming forward through there. And although I cannot align it to the work I've done myself, their opinion is that it is linked to this campaign work because obviously they're part of our health service, the NHS. They don't do any sort of outward or outreach work or publicity or anything like that. So they're firmly of the belief that it is linked to this campaign.
So, why do you think that maybe those men aren't coming directly to, let's say, your department or you?
I think I think for me, again, and this is only my opinion, but I think typically, I think obviously I'm not quite sure about law within the US, but certainly back in the 50s, obviously it was illegal to be a gay man here in the UK. And you could, if you were found to be, in an encounter with another man, you could be subjected to hormone treatment, electric shock treatment, those options, or face prison. And I think that perhaps, even though obviously we've moved significantly on and away from that kind of thought process now, but if you are a man who perhaps now is in your late 50s or early 60s, and that is how you remember the police, then I firmly see that as a blocker to you coming forward. Likewise, I think with just guys in general, I think it's that same old belief that, men cannot be victims, and society tells us that, although it's clearly not true. And guys, again, typically we are brought up to kind of, be the stronger character, play with, action man, or, the male superhero figures, whereas girls are brought up in a much more kind of gentle way and are used to talking to perhaps their mum or their mother about things that are happening to their body, i.e., their first period, or they're needing to buy their first bra. Whereas with guys, we don't we don't have those same issues going on at such an early age, which kind of mean that we need to have that emotional kind of bond, perhaps between our mother or our father.
Yeah. Um, back in October, I finally went to the police to report my sexual abuse and assault, and it was like 17 years later.
Right.
And it was a very jarring process for me emotionally. I knew it was what I wanted to do. I wanted to make sure that the perpetrator's name was in the system. I knew that the police wouldn't be able to do anything because of the statute of limitations. But I recall sitting there with the detective and really feeling scared. I was in an interrogation
Mm.
room talking about this, and I shared on the podcast that I imagine that's the only place they had to do an interview where it was safe. But I
Yeah.
wish the setting was different when I told my story. And I'm wondering, when you guys are interviewing individuals who come in, do you have that same setup where you're going into the traditional interrogation room?
No, I think that's probably where obviously US and UK police setups are slightly different. Certainly, if somebody was to walk into one of our police centres, we have got kind of just general rooms that, there's just a table, a computer, and just a couple of chairs, and it's very much just a plain room. um, and we can take the details there. Equally, if we determine that the victim perhaps requires the next level of the capability to tell their story, then we can always do it in one of our soft interview suites, which basically means the interview is recorded as opposed to a written statement. And it tends to be perhaps a lot easier for the victim as well. Whereas perhaps our interrogation rooms in your kind of police speak would be more so in our custody centres. But again, they are just rooms, a computer, but in that case, a recording machine, and just a couple of chairs.
So, what's the step after a survivor comes in and gives their account of what happened? Can you walk us through
So
that?
yeah, sure. So yeah, so we take the report, as I say. So initially, that could be, we've either attended the person's home address or they've come into the station. Um, so we will either take a written statement from them, or, as I just explained, if perhaps they need that next level of capability to tell their story, we may go to a video interview, which basically means the victim doesn't provide a written statement. Their written statement is in effect the video. And obviously, depending on the length of time between the event and the reporting, there then could be some evidential gathering, whether that is the victim's clothing, anything that was left by the perpetrator, perhaps at the scene of the event. So you would gather that evidence first. Obviously, then we would look to deal with the perpetrator. The victim, meanwhile, would then be kind of stepped out of that initial process into our victim support channels, which involve signposting to our external partners for support, whether that be counselling or written information. And also they'd be assigned an ISVA, an independent sexual violence advisor, and that ISVA would stay with them through the journey of their time either with the police, or if it was to go to court, through the criminal justice system.
That sounds like a great process. Is that new? Or has it always been like that?
Well, again, I think these are things that are kind of growing as time moves on. A lot of our partner agencies have had ISVAs and IDVAs, which is the Independent Domestic Violence Advisors, for some time. But I think it's probably only over the last maybe 3 to 4 years that as an organization, we've really tapped into that and kind of worked more closely with our partner agencies. And in some of our police centres now, we've actually got some of these independent ISVAs and IDVAs working in our environment, so that it makes it much easier for us as police officers that if we are dealing with a domestic violence or a sexual violence victim, it makes it much easier for us to just perhaps lean across a desk and speak to an ISVA or an IDVA, as opposed to perhaps them just being that brand label and office of one of our partner agencies. So we have done a lot of work to try and make sure that as soon as a victim is with us, those services are right there.
Yeah, I really like that setup. It sounds like it's helpful for the survivor to get those services right away and not necessarily have to go out searching for them. I like the connection that you help them make. That's really important because I know it's severely hard to tell our stories, and so if we're coming in for support, we don't want that support to drop right after we tell our stories.
Absolutely.
We kind of want to be held, right?
Yeah.
We just came in and told all of our deepest, darkest moments to a stranger, and we need the support. So that's really I'm really glad that you have that set up. Can you talk about whether or not you guys have the statute of limitations in terms of whether or not you can pursue the perpetrator?
Again, obviously that there is a difference there between UK and US legislation, because we don't have anything like that. But obviously, because and what I will say first is obviously that's shown at the moment, and I don't know if you have seen in the news. Obviously, at the moment we've got quite high profile football clubs in the UK which are currently disclosing child sexual exploitation or abuse. So again, that would be a very good example of actually something that perhaps happened back in the 80s, early 90s, whereas and now these now men are speaking out about what happened, and obviously that is leading to prosecutions. And although that started with just 4 or 5 former professional football players who have now set up their own trust, which is the Offside Trust, and again they're on Twitter, I think it just shows that in a way, that has happened in a very masculine environment. And I think it shows that it can happen anywhere, and likewise has encouraged guys to come forward about that. I myself have dealt with one guy who lived in a different area when he was a child, and he was sexually assaulted by his football coach. It wasn't the football coach linked to our national case, but nonetheless, that event of those 4 or 5 guys, former footballers coming forward, had encouraged him to come out and speak about what happened to him in the same circumstances.
Wow. Here survivors are having to fight to be heard, and the laws are not on our side. And I am just blown away that it's like a different scenario over in the UK.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's that thing. I mean, obviously the historic stuff, whether we're talking 10, 20 years ago or even just a few months, because once you lose that evidential window, it really does then come down to obviously one word against the other.
Sure.
And this is why I'm always, again, pushing the message of, if you don't want to report to the police, you're not quite sure what you want to do, certainly in the UK, is always get yourself to a sexual assault referral centre. I can't speak for how the US ones work, but certainly in the UK, our advice is, as men, we have got 72 hours as an evidential time frame to get ourselves to a sexual assault referral centre and obviously undergo a forensic examination. And again, that in itself may cause apprehension, but you are being dealt with by people in the health service. They're not connected to the police at all. And any evidence recovered is stored for a lifetime. And at any time that victim chooses that actually the time is now right for me to report to the police, that evidence is there. 10 years may have passed, but that evidence and the report that was taken by the health service professional is there and ready.
For a lifetime.
Yes.
Man, that's encouraging. That's really encouraging, and I hope that we can follow suit here in the U.S. with similar reporting methods. And yeah, it's just stunning to me, because I have so many survivors who come and speak about their experience, and it's night and day from what I'm hearing. And I imagine that it's going to be different throughout the world. So I encourage listeners, if you have a different experience and you want to share that, contact us at journeyoncast@gmail.com, because I want to hear your story, and I want to get it out there. Mike, I want to ask you, what do you think about a survivor, someone who was maybe molested at a young age, who goes on to become a perpetrator? What do you think, or what do you currently see in your experience happens for that individual? Do they get rehabilitation treatment, or do they just get sent to prison in your area?
Yeah, again, that's not something I necessarily deal with under the umbrella for which I work, but
Okay.
from kind of the last 2.5 years in the partner agency work that I've done, I think again statistically in the UK, we don't have the statistical evidence to suggest that if you are abused as a child, that you in some way do go on to become a perpetrator in later life. But it is something that we are aware of. And certainly just a week or so ago, I was at a child sexual abuse and exploitation conference, which was focusing more so on the boys as opposed to the girls, but at the same time acknowledge that women can be perpetrators.
Yes.
Let's not forget that. but was very much about that exact point you've just raised, that if we have got a child has been abused or whatever, and likewise then as a collective, and this goes back to what I'm trying to achieve, is this holistic service provision. So whichever gateway that individual comes in through, whether it be the sexual assault referral centre, whether it be one of our partner agencies, or whether it be the police, is that once that victim is within that holistic circle, the service provision is there no matter what that victim needs, whether it be counselling, whether it be drug and alcohol rehabilitation, whatever that is, that service is there, and that is what we are trying to achieve and build.
Excellent. I appreciate hearing that. One last question. What do you think? What would you like to see happen as you move forward in your career and on your path for survivors of sexual assault and abuse? What additional services do you think are needed, and how do you have any other ways that you would like for maybe yourself or people on your team to be able to reach those survivors?
I think certainly at the moment, I feel that we are, from my side of things, I think that we are on the right track. But I think anything that we achieve isn't going to happen overnight, as I'm sure you and listeners can appreciate as well, is that we, as perhaps people who are trying to highlight and fight for increased services, etc., for men and boys, is that we are going against decades of societal views which all have hammered into us that men and boys cannot be victims. And if a guy was to be assaulted in any way, then why didn't he fight the perpetrator off? But what people don't understand is that in exactly the same way as a female, if a male is being raped, they are likely to react in pretty much the same way as a female, in that they will basically let themselves effectively be raped, in so much as in order to get the event done and dusted, and that they may walk away with no further injuries, etc., etc., is that kind of fight or flight type thing. So there are a lot of prejudices, societal views, and things like that, and which we have to work towards, and it will be tiny steps, but every little tiny step we take and achieve over time will bring about change. And it's not about, from my perspective, it's not about having services for men, having services for women, having services for children. Certainly in the UK, and the way funding, etc., works, and obviously with our kind of financial cuts and things like that across all sectors, that isn't something that we can necessarily do. But what it is about bringing services for men and boys up to the same level as those available to women and girls, and also making them as accessible to men and as visible as I said earlier about some of our partner agency websites. That making sure when a male goes online, they're looking for that support, that they can find it.
Beautiful. Accessibility and visibility, those are really important. Mike, thank you so much for taking time today to speak to myself and our audience. And I would love for our audience to be able to follow you on Twitter, because you say a lot of great things for us survivors. Can you give us your Twitter handle?
Yeah, absolutely. It's at ASP Alpha Sierra Papa Stephen.
Oh, I think we got cut off. Can you say it one more time?
Yep, sure. It's at ASP Alpha Sierra Papa Mike Stephen.
Awesome, Mike. Thank you so much. And And keep doing the great work that you're doing. I'm sure that the male survivors there in the UK are grateful for the work that you and your colleagues are doing to help increase awareness and to provide the services that we all need.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right. Have a great day, Mike.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
I just want to say thank you once again to Mike for being on today's show. Mike, you are an inspiration, and I appreciate all the work that you're doing and all the work that you're doing on social media. I think it's so important for allies to come forward and help support men healing from sexual abuse and assault. We have to continue to have these conversations. You know, it happens to men too. And the only way that we will be able to get the support that we need is if we have the allies to back us. So keep doing what you're doing. I will continue to follow you on social media. Guys, continue to follow Mike on social media. And, stay tuned for everything that's coming up for season 2 of Journey On. I am very grateful to all of you for continuing to tune in. So I'm going to bring you more exciting, more encouraging, more loving, caring, kind stories of men healing from sexual abuse and assault. We will continue to reach those men who are in pain and help them heal. Journey On is looking to hear from you. If you're interested in sharing your experience, strength, and hope with our audience, email us at journeynonpodcast@gmail.com for details. Journey On's production is currently funded in whole by me as part of my desire to provide support to those who are still suffering. Production costs fluctuate and can be prohibitive in terms of what I can offer to our audience. You can help support Journey On's mission by supporting the production. There are 2 options. You can donate the amount of your choice directly from your cell phone by texting the word JOURNEY to 855-735-2437. That's JOURNEY to 855-735-2437. Or you can become a patron of the show by setting up a monthly contribution by going to patreon.com/journeyon. That's patreon.com/JOURNEYON. Once there, you can select the contribution level of your choice. Thank you for considering. Don't forget to visit journeynonpod.com and sign up for my Recovery Journey newsletter. Once you have subscribed, you will get more information about my weekend male survivor retreats and my online coaching services for male survivors. Journey On is produced by DJ Burr and the Recovery Legacy Network, bringing you recovery on all fronts. Learn more at recoverylegacynetwork.com. Today's music features tracks by CDK and Airtone. You can learn more about the tracks on our website, journeynonpod.com. Until next time, breathe deep and journey on.